Today on Guitar Gear 1, we're going to be covering the approach to the electric guitar. Originally, we're going to be doing a video on transitioning into the amazing world of 8-string guitar. But before we do that, I thought we should talk about some more general things. So go ahead and get comfortable because we're going to be throwing a lot of info at you. Everybody's going to tell you to approach guitar differently, and I'm no exception. There is no right or wrong, there's only your own personal story. And mine is a little bit different than probably most people, so I figured let's just say that immediately, which is, when I was born, my dad had a guitar store. Okay, so literally, and we're going to show you a little picture of it here, but while I was being born in the hospital, there was a 65 Fender Mustang with racing stripes on it waiting for me at home. It was a student-sized guitar, and so every infant should probably have one of those. And so I've literally been playing guitar my entire life, no exaggeration, no I'm trying to impress you at the bar kind of a thing. Like seriously, that's just how it is. And so when I see these guys on the internet that are younger than me, I'm pretty sure I've been playing guitar longer for some pretty basic mathematical reasons, but beyond that, I think that I've been exposed to some things that a lot of people haven't. And nowadays, it seems to be the case that most people are looking to stuff like this, something like this Line 6, Spider 3, those kinds of things. I think it's more typical that a first guitar amp would be something like this, and you're probably playing on a guitar that maybe was pretty affordable, let's say. My first amp was a Fender Champion. This is a Champ, it's actually a Vibro Champ specifically, and we'll be doing a new review of this soon because it's super cool and it's just been sitting, and why not? But the point is I'm watching all these guys telling people you have to buy these kinds of guitars, you have to use these kinds of strings, you have to play this kind of music, and you can only do it this way, and that's just it. And so I'm watching guys attacking other people on the internet and telling them that they're wrong about everything, and on and on and on. And the problem is there is no logistics behind it whatsoever. It doesn't make any sense. They're baseless accusations, it's rhetorical information, it's dogmatic information actually. And so I want to just throw a bunch of stuff at you guys. Whether you're playing 6-string, 7-string, or 8-string, or 9-string, which is really becoming the new crush that I've been seeing everybody getting into lately, I wanted to talk to you guys about some ideology. So I'm going to start at the 6-string end of it. And if you've never played guitar before in your life, never played before, let's just throw a hypothetical out. You're 16 years old. You love a few different kinds of music. You love EDM. You secretly listen to country in your car when your friends don't know about it. Chromeo is your favorite guilty pleasure artist, and when your friends are around, all you talk about is Born of Osiris and Meshuggah. Then when you're with your girlfriend, you listen to like Postal Service and Pinback and I'm You, okay? So here's the deal. You want to play guitar and you have no fucking idea what you're doing, okay? So let me help a little bit. These days, you don't have to start here. You don't have to start here. You don't have to start here, okay? You can start with any of them. Now, here's the interesting thing. Ooh, and I get to do it on camera for the first time. This bad Oscar right here. You don't have to start with a custom baritone scaled 8-string guitar, but if you can, you should do that. Now, the idea is from the 6th string down, okay, you have a guitar tuned to standard E, okay? So from the 6th string down, this is exactly the same as this guitar here, or from the 6th string down on the 7th string, okay? So it's tuned to concert E. You can play everything that you can play on this guitar, but you can also play a lot more. The only difference with this is that it is a baritone scale. Now, here's the thing about scale. I'm going to try to cover this as quickly as I can. The short of it is, the longer you create a scale length to be, the more tension each string is placed under. Consequently, it gets harder and harder and harder to bend notes on a guitar that's longer and longer and longer. Why is this relevant? When you're telling people what kind of string gauge they have to have, that's really important to know, because if you were to take the strings that are on, for example, my 7th string, on my 7th string, my 7th string is the same exact gauge as the 8th string on my 8th string, because to compensate for the lack of tension on a 25.5-inch scale, which this guitar is, we're going to get into scale lengths, you need more tension, and to do that, you increase string gauge. So if you were to put like a 70 gauge string on this guitar and tune it to standard E, it would be bonkers tight. You wouldn't be able to bend anything. It would be so exhaustive on your hands. for a new guitar player, that is completely pointless, it's senseless, and it's going to frustrate a new player, okay? So my suggestion would be, if you're just starting, don't worry about lower tunings. You'll get to them, okay? Start off with standard tunings and just let your hands get comfortable. Start getting familiar with the mechanics of guitar, build up to that stuff. And as you start experimenting, as you start detuning, start increasing string tension. So by effectively creating a similar level of tension between all of your guitars, you can transition between 6, 7, and 8 all in one set. Like if your band plays different songs and different tunings and things like this, you can cycle between your guitars with very little to overcome mentally and physically in your hands, and you'll be a much more dynamic player, and it won't be so taxing on you. Now, I'm a big advocate of tube amps, and the really short reason is the frequencies being created by tube amplifiers are much more complex than the more static frequencies being created with digital technology. You don't have the variances. And so what happens is, the really short of it is, if you're playing an amp like this Line 6 down here, you can dial in a sound that you think sounds really, really good in a room. So I'm sitting in my basement by myself, I'm in my bedroom, I'm in my girlfriend's closet, wherever it is, and I'm EQing this thing, and I listen to the Deftones, and I listen to whoever's relevant now because I don't care. But the idea is, let's say you scooped out all the mids, and you pushed up the gain really, really high, and you got all this bass and all this kind of stuff going on, and it sounds huge to you. You're like, this is my favorite, metal band sound, whatever. You start playing with a band, and you hear nothing. There's nothing. It's just noise. You're perceiving loudness in the room, but as a bassist playing, as a drummer's playing, as a singer's singing, it's just a bunch of noise, okay? Because you don't have complementary frequencies being spread out over a broad spectrum and actually creating a sound that can ever cut through in a live mix. There's lots of other videos that are going to explain this to you in depth, probably using science and things like that I'm not going to get into here, but that's really truly the short of it. So if you have something like this Engel Powerball, or a PV5150 that's very, very popular for metal, anything from like the Marshall JCM series, there are so many boutique amps out there, it's unbelievable. And I wasn't a metal guy until pretty recently as far as that goes. When you look at the amount of years that I've played guitar, metal's been my latest thing. That's my new thing. And so if you're playing blues or rock and roll or country or anything like that, forget it. And there's guys that have different opinions. I know Scott Grove in particular, who's very popular on YouTube, has a very different approach to this. He's a professional live musician. Rock on, man. That's great. That's absolutely great. But to me, if you can get into a tube amp for a similar price as an effects-loaded, modeler-loaded transistor amp, I would always advocate for you to consider going with the tube amplifier. And really, 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 really quickly, everyone's going to Axe-Fx. Everybody's going to Axe-Fx, and I saw a great video with a producer from Canada that explained this. And so credit where credit's due. He was the one that phrased it like this, so I'm going to phrase it to you the way that he phrased it to me, because I watched this video, which was, if you buy an Axe-Fx, and if you're unfamiliar, an Axe-Fx is about the size of a regular guitar head, but the idea is it can be run through any kind of in-house PA system or directly into a board for recording any source that you like, and create amplifier modeling sounds and effect modeling sounds that are very, very good. The problem is, if you take a unit like that to a club, okay, the person running the soundboard is completely responsible for your guitar tone. So if you're playing a gig, think about how many times a night, and if you're a newbie, what's going to happen is, and if you've been playing for a long time, what happens is you're playing a gig and you're constantly tweaking. Maybe your rhythm sounds great, and then you go to play your first guitar solo and you realize you have way too many highs and it's just like ice picks and you can't stand it. So you walk over and you turn your presence down a little bit, dial back the treble a little bit, maybe roll up the bass, roll up the mids, whatever you're going to do. But throughout the night, I'm always doing this. And I don't really think about that. But if you remove that from me, I'd probably go crazy. But the other problem is, my band, we'll play really, really nice clubs in Chicago or whatever like this, and sometimes you have a great audio guy, a lot of times they're okay, and sometimes they're just terrible. And so whether that person is cutting out microphones when people need to be singing, or they're completely missing cues or whatever's going on. That's going to be the reality of your guitar tone. So imagine you're playing a live gig, your guitar just stops, or then it's really loud, or then the bass comes up for no reason, and then it's just totally treble heavy, or whatever's going on. That would be the reality of your situation. You've completely let go of your control over your sound. That's the opposite of what you were trying to achieve. And so if you're going to buy an Axe-Fx head for like $2,000, let's say, then you have to buy a power amp so everyone else can hear it if you're going to run it through a guitar cabinet. So now you've paid $2,000 for the head itself. Then you have to buy a power amp from like Mesa that's going to be over $1,000, or from Marshall. And then you have to buy a cabinet. And so now you've paid way more money than you would have to have an amp that you just paid all that money for to have a model of. So you didn't even get the amp, you got a model, and the model will never sound as good as the real thing. And so that's my 2 cents on that approach. And so it's said, when Shannon started building my 8-string a million years ago, and I can't wait to do this review, and that's why we finally got the recording stuff set up, and it's going to be amazing. But anyway, when Shannon started doing my guitar, I thought I was going to have to sell my amp head because everyone's telling me you can't play 8-string guitar with a tube amp. You just can't. It just doesn't have the lows, it doesn't have whatever. Bull-ing shit. Bullshit. It's just bullshit. This thing sounds incredible for that kind of stuff. A roaring tube head through vintage Celestion 30s in a big old cabinet, beat that with a stick. You can't. So my beef right now is I'm seeing nothing but the most quasi-intellectual lying going on between people. So really simply, if you're buying guitar strings for the first time, buy them in proportion to your scale length and the tuning that you're going to be using. There is no standard across the board. I used to buy Ernie Balls in 10s in 10 packs, and I put them on all my 6-string guitars because I pretty much only played in standard tuning with drop D, and that was fine for that 10 to 46. But if you start dropping down, you need to increase your tension because you have a decrease in tension because you're down tuning. So the only factor in guitar string choice is what scale length, what tuning am I playing in. Don't listen to Johnny on the internet. He doesn't know about anything, I promise, okay? So, if you want to start with 8-string guitar, do it. Just do it. If you want to start with 7, do it. You have no need for anything beyond a 6-string. Don't let anybody tell you you need to go beyond 6-string. There's no reason to. There's no reason to. I explained this in the video of going from playing 6-string guitar to 7-string guitar. Okay, so you can reference that video as to some really good reasons why. What else can we say? I think that's about what I wanted to cover for this stuff. And here's my last issue. Okay, and I promised these guys I was going to say this in a video, and if 500 people watch it, that's fine. I've been having some problems on these forums, particularly on Facebook, and I'm watching these kids day after day after day after day leave each other these asinine, baseless comments. They're just talking for the sake of talking. And I am calling you out, by the way. You're doing that. Here's where I'm drawing the line. The other day I was on a page, and a guy had a problem with his bridge. I'm going to leave it as arbitrary as that, but that was the gist of it. And somebody, and I'm not going to censor it because he said it, so I'm going to say it. Somebody said, "What's with this nigger-rigged piece of shit?" Pretty close. That was about it, but he absolutely said that. I watch these guys jump each other, comment after comment after comment. Somebody posts anything that doesn't have to do with an extended range guitar, and everybody's just like, well, that's not in the rules. You can't talk about that on here. I have never seen elitism like this in my life. One of my favorite expressions is, you had to have gone to college to say something that stupid. I have never seen proof like this better than these kids on the internet. They think they know something about anything, and so they're jumping all these other people about it. And my favorite part about this is, it's 2014, and somebody's on the internet dropping the N-bomb like it's no big deal, okay? And so I went on, and I never chime in on stuff like this, but I really drew a line on this one. I'm like, you guys think it's cool to just chime in on each other about all this other crap and correct each other about anything in the world because you're such a fucking authority on it. But this guy drops the N-bomb Nobody says anything. And I'm like, I'm done, man. I'm fucking done. And the best part is, I had like 10 comments from people defending this guy. I had somebody tell me to grow a pair. I had somebody tell me to grow up and to get over it. These are the guys you're taking advice from. So I don't care if you like me or not. You think I'm a shitty guitar player? That's fine, dude. You don't have to like my songs. But I do know a little bit about what I'm talking about. And if you're trying to save some money, if you're trying to make better purchasing decisions, if you're trying to learn more about something that you clearly don't know anything about, on my page, and there's several other guys on YouTube, and I'm not going to name drop, they know what they're talking about too, for the most part. And I disagree a little bit with almost everybody, but that's fine. That's what makes the world go around. And there's no one that I would call out beyond what I'm seeing on these fucking forums on Facebook. And so I had to get that out there, and I just want you to know these are the people that you're allowing to influence your spending decisions and potentially your career with music. Because if this is something that you're taking to, don't let anybody stop you. Don't let anybody tell you not to experiment. You want to try something? Try it. Because the people probably telling you that something won't work or you can't possibly do it that way, they sure as hell don't know. Tinker around. Get your hands dirty, make some mistakes, and find something new. Because virtually no one I can think of right now is doing anything new. So please, be the next Jimi Hendrix. Seriously, I need one. And the last thing I'll say is, I guess I'm going to have to make a video about it. I got people asking me about tone woods. What do I think? And what don't they know? I got into guitar building. So when we come back, we're going to talk about that.